League Two did not disappoint over the weekend. Two teams won promotion and one were relegated. Doncaster 2, Bradford 1 at 12:30. At the same time, Wimbledon 0, Port Vale 2 secured promotion for both Donny and Vale. Fantastic scenes at the formerly Keepmoat Stadium. Fantastic scenes in the away end at Plough Lane. Let's go with Donny first. That game against Bradford's pretty mental, George, in a number of ways. Both a red card and a big penalty save.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots to unpick here. I think we'll get onto the red card, and we should firstly say that, you know, Doncaster are promoted. The crucial moment in winning promotion was Billy Sharp putting them 2-0 up, which in itself is a bit of a fairy tale moment for him, especially, you know, his first game back from suspension for that ridiculous headbutt and the opposition's back. For him to come off the bench and score in the way that he did is a moment that I'm sure Donny fans will remember for a long time, even if it did get a bit nervy with Bradford coming back into the game. This is a Donny side who, this is their first home win against any team in the top 10. It's been their downfall this season. Had their record been better in those games, you know, they'd have been home and dry a long time ago. And Grant McCann has done a phenomenal job. And again, the club have been rewarded for keeping the faith in him, because it's easy to forget that they started last season like absolutely horrendously. And there was a period of time last season, not that early on in the campaign, before they went on an incredible late run where Donny were genuinely in the mix for relegation. And now here they are, a win away from being top of being crowned League Two champions. But yes, there were two ridiculous moments in the game. The first game with Aidan Baldwin being initially booked and then seemingly shown a straight red after the booking, effectively for dissent. I can't really work out exactly what it is he's complaining about. I don't know if you know. I mean,
I don't know in particular, but I do know that he was absolutely dominated by Rob Street in the first half, including for Street's goal that put Donny ahead. Street's quite a physical attacker, and as far as I am aware, Baldwin could not handle him at all. There might have been some decisions that didn't go his way on top of that, but I think he basically just had an absolute shocker of a half. He's angry. They're behind. They're looking down the barrel of being winless in 4 at a key point in the season, and it's complete head loss. Honestly, regardless of what's happened in the first half, regardless of whether he should have had some decisions or he's had fouls given against him that weren't, or vice versa, this is one of the most unprofessional things I've seen on the pitch this season. And you know, he kills his team. And it's Bradford. They had Richie Smallwood's red card a couple of weeks ago. Different circumstances, you know, a poor decision to lunge into a tackle, and he missed games, and they didn't win any of them. And this didn't help at all from Baldwin. Honestly, I think it's really embarrassing, and he'll be suspended for the last game of the season, and I guess for will he be suspended for the 2 playoff semi-finals if they make it as well? Do
you think if they get to the playoff final, do you think he'll play? I don't think he'll be in the squad. Have you seen, like...
Instinctively, I want to say no, he shouldn't play. And the good news is, I think Bradford have quite a few centre-backs, so probably wouldn't be as big a miss as... You know, you wouldn't do that with Smallwood, would you? But yeah, no, interesting one. And of course, what's kind of mad is, you know, I say it killed them. Of course it did. No one wants to play with 10 men second half when you're 1-0 down. They had a penalty and a chance to make it 1-1. And Tyreek Wright steps up and takes it. And God, I feel bad for just being such a hindsight guy, captain hindsight. But like, you can't tell me Tyreek Wright is Bradford's penalty taker with the players that they had on the pitch. It really, really surprised me. It's not that he's a poor player, but there's just, I don't know. I just feel like there'd be other players on that pitch who you would trust more in that situation. It was actually a pretty good penalty, and it was very, very well saved by Sharman Lowe, who made another brilliant save in this game, and who's been somewhat maligned at times this season for Donny. That, you know, they had a great goalkeeper the second half of last season, Lo Tutala, and I think the feeling was Sharman Lowe as a loanee wasn't quite living up to those expectations, but he stepped up when it mattered here.
Yeah, he did. It was interesting. I watched Graham Alexander's interview post-match, and he was ticking, as you'd imagine. But there were two kind of nuggets to take out of it. One was that he basically said that Wright wasn't the intended penalty taker, and he was surprised he took the penalty, which plays into exactly what you said. And you wonder if, you know, is it a case in those situations where when the pressure's on, It's just whoever puts their hand up and is willing to take it who ends up taking it. And the maybe more interesting thing is that he properly threw Baldwin under the bus. And he said that he was down the tunnel when it happened, the incident. He heard someone had been sent off. He came out to find out what had happened. He heard that Baldwin had been sent off. He spoke to the referee, and then he was left believing that the referee had no choice but to send him off. So clearly he has said something there that is just totally and utterly unacceptable. It feels pretty rare that a manager won't stick up for his player when it's dissent that has caused a sending off like that. So
absolutely,
that would suggest to me that we may not see him again.
Well, the sharp scenes, as you say, the Billy Sharp post-goal scenes,
correct, yeah,
are great. Then there's another twist because Bradford obviously score in injury time, and they still had, I think, 3 minutes, so had a little bit of jeopardy there, a bit of nerves as well. But this Donny team have really peaked at the right time, and this is a league this season where that has mattered maybe more so than most because it's been so tight. Really impressive the way they've stepped up over the last few weeks, and they had a bit of, in terms of being the best team in the league or a top 3 team in the league. They were in the kind of 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th zone all season, but we still wanted to see a bit more from them. We expected to see a little bit more from them. We picked them to win League Two at the start of the season. They're going to either finish 1st or 2nd, and it's been great to see them step up and get over the line in the last couple of weeks. And Grant McCann, I think we're both pretty big fans of Grant McCann, and it's both very pleasing and not very surprising to see him with another promotion on his CV, and with the team playing great football as well, which I always enjoy watching as a neutral.
Yeah, exactly. Couldn't agree more. And I think there'll be, as is often the case now, teams come out of League Two, I think there'll be a decent force next season. And I think, as we've seen with the ownership group in the past, we'll probably see them recruit pretty heavily in order to try and repeat the trick from what we've seen from Wrexham and Stockport this season, and go and try and compete at the top end of League One.
And I think it's easy to forget that they felt like they were on a bit of a death spiral, as is often the case for League One teams that get relegated and drop down to League Two. They didn't handle that well at all. Managerial appointments didn't work out. They were relegated from League One, then they finished 18th in League Two, and first half of the last season. It just shows what Grant McCann had to turn around. Is that we know he's a quality manager, but even so, it took half a season for him to really get his grip on things, and ahead of that incredible winning run. So, it just shows, if you're a fan of a team listening who's maybe dropped down from League One, that's maybe not had a great season or 2 seasons, there is mobility at this level if you can make a good appointment, if you can get a couple of key players in place, and that's exactly what they've done. And Vale will join them. They will rejoin League One, bouncing back at the first time of asking, which, you know what, George, shouldn't be sniffed at. We constantly say teams that go down from League One to League Two, the strongest trend is that they struggle, quite often to the point of finishing in the bottom half, quite often to the point of being relegated twice in a row, as we've seen this season with Carlisle. But Vale, for whatever reason, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts, have managed to put aside the various challenges that come from that sort of relegation and the disappointment from last season. And again, they've timed their run perfectly. They've had their dips, as have every team, but they've started super strong. They've finished super strong.
Yeah, and that's, I think, it. Every team has had their dips. There hasn't been a team who have been dominant from start to finish. There was one team who was dominant from start to middle, and then they've been completely horrendous from middle to finish. And apart from that, it's been teams at certain times who can turn it on, but then also struggle. And it feels like Doncaster and Port Vale are basically going to be the teams that finish 1st and 2nd, because when it's really come to crunch time, and I'm talking 2 or 3 games, they've been able to maintain some level of form, and that's been the difference for them. There are a lot of Vale fans who really appreciate the work that Darren Moore has done this season. There are a lot of Vale fans who point the finger at him for being the reason why they weren't able to secure this earlier. And that's kind of League Two in a nutshell so far this season. In Tolai, they've had a player who's been a class act at the kind of crux, most important point of the campaign, as of Doncaster and Molyneux, and that's made a big difference too. But they're just a very robust, good, physical, classic kind of good League Two side. It's not reliant on possession. It's not expansive football. We're good at set pieces. We're solid defensively. We've got a target man in Jayden Stockley who can go toe to toe with your centre backs, and we're always in games. And that is normally a recipe for success in League Two.
Yeah, absolutely. Really strong squad, and have suffered quite a lot of injuries this season, as is the case for most teams, and at times have struggled, particularly in midfield. But the midfield options that they have of Garrity, Croasdale and George Byers, it's no surprise to see a team with those options being promoted. It's fun to me, and it's interesting to me that Walters, who we talked about the other day, has managed to kind of punch his way into the team as a starter, aged only 20 as well, in front of some of those guys, and started here at Wimbledon as well. So really impressive. Obviously, Jack Shorrock, 17-year-old, won League Two Apprentice of the Season at the EFL Awards. He's got lots of game time as well. So I think lots of nice work being done. As you say, just a really good, well-rounded team. Lots of different avenues of scoring goals over the course of the season. If Stockley stopped scoring, Talage stepped up. If neither of them were scoring, there's Garrity, there's the wing backs, there's the set pieces. They've been really, really good. And Darren Moore gets his second promotion after taking Wednesday from League One to the Championship. Obviously didn't get a chance to manage the club in the Championship. He certainly will with Port Vale. I'm pleased for their ownership, who I definitely have in the category what I spoke about earlier in the League One section of I really trust and believe that they have the club's best interests at heart. They are really connected to the local area. I think that's so important. They don't have unbelievably deep pockets at a higher level than this, but they have certainly bankrolled a very, very strong squad. And I hope there's some appreciation for that for them from the fan base.
It's interesting as well, in a period where you have the Shrewsbury town owner effectively telling fans that the days of local businessmen being able to sustain football clubs are over. In so many words, that we've got the first two teams promoted out of League Two, owned locally by local people with a vested interest in their clubs. So, shows that it can be done.
Absolutely.
And Stockport that went before that as well, to be fair. So,
but both clubs know that it's difficult to sustain in League One. For clubs on their side. They've both been relegated from that level in the last few years. So I guess what I'm saying is they'll go up with their eyes open, which I don't think is a bad thing necessarily at all. Wimbledon in terrible form, 2 wins from their last 10. Weird quirk where I think they've only faced 4 shots on target in their last 3 or 4 games. They've all gone in, and they've had 1 shot on target or less in 3 of their last 4. So going forward, really struggling to create good goal scoring opportunities, and at the back, either poor goalkeeping or just some good finishing against them. That they're still not giving up loads, which I know I keep saying it. I think if they can get over the line and get into the playoffs, then I do think if they can settle a couple of days to breathe, they'll be really hard to beat over 2 legs, beat over 90 minutes at Wembley, just the way that they set up, the way that they defend. But going forward, I mean, it's difficult to know where the chance creation comes from at the moment. They've got Grimsby away, George. It's an unbelievable 3rd automatic promotion spot and playoff picture. Can you try and make some sense of it?
Not really. I can try. I mean, this Wimbledon Grimsby game is just massive. Wimbledon currently sitting in 6th. Their promotion potential, automatic promotion possibilities have gone, and this becomes a bit of a playoff, because if Grimsby beat Wimbledon, they're 2 points behind them, then they will overtake them and they will finish in the playoffs. And then AFC Wimbledon will be reliant on Salford not winning their game or Chesterfield not winning their game, because Chesterfield,
Salford playing Carlisle, Chesterfield playing Accrington. We never say definitively what will happen because it bites us on the nose more often than not, but it feels implausible that neither of those teams would win, which means Wimbledon avoiding defeat is massive.
Because Chesterfield are 3 points behind Wimbledon, 2 goal different behind. They're plus 18 to Wimbledon's plus 20, but should Wimbledon lose and Chesterfield win, even if it's by a solitary goal, they'll both be on the same goal difference, but Chesterfield have scored more goals than Wimbledon, so will therefore overtake them. So if Chesterfield win and Wimbledon lose, then they will overtake them. So that's interesting. I mean, with Wimbledon, I do feel like, so often it comes down to the results all that matters when it comes to assessing a manager's ability. But in Johnny Jackson's case, it just feels like so clear when you analyse their performances and you analyse the games themselves that he is setting up this football team to win. Like, they do not concede many chances. Teams don't create much against them. They create enough themselves. Does it come down to the manager and his fault if the opposition are clinical against you and you are unable to score those chances? I don't think so. It feels like, should they lose on Saturday, it could be his last game in charge of the club. And I really hope that isn't the case, because I think he's shown this season what he's capable of, and it's just frustrating that they've hit this nasty patch where they're not getting the rub of the green at all at the worst possible moment. In terms of the playoff picture, the promotion picture, Walsall just, again...
They lost 1-0 to Accrington because the words are struggling to get out of your mouth. They lost 1-0 to Accrington. Ben Woods scored an incredible goal from out wide, on the bounce.
You could have a compilation
over the goalkeeper.
Competition of goal of the season against Walsall, and it would have been incredible. It would have been incredible, real. Again, reason to really doubt them and to criticise what they've done and criticise the performances 100%. But they just have this knack of conceding worldies. And it ended for a bit, but then Saturday's was probably the best of the lot of them. And they hit the crossbar at 0-0. Albert Adoma hit the post at 0-0. They are just a totally luckless side. It's better to be lucky than good, but they're luckless and bad, and that is a bad combination.
Yeah, it certainly is. They'll be a playoff team, definitely. They might still win automatic promotion. Walsall, if they win on final day and Bradford fail to win, they will go above them. If they draw and Bradford lose, they will also go above them on goal difference. That will bring Notts County into play as well. Notts beat Harrogate 3-1. Some pretty terrible Notts County defending in this game that wasn't punished by Harrogate. The goal that Harrogate did score was terrible defending from Notts County. Thankfully, at the other end, they did enough. George Abbott scoring, Connor Grant scoring twice. Nice moves for their goals. It was better attacking football from Notts County, not so reliant just on McGoldrick magic, and I think that bodes pretty well. Notts can still get automatic promotion if they beat Doncaster, while Bradford lose at home to Fleetwood, and Walsall drop points at Crewe. The combination seems unlikely, but who knows? And Salford have put themselves in a great position, Georgia, making the playoffs. They beat Colchester 4-1. Hell of a start to this game. Penalty after 15 seconds, scored by Elek, who really seems to love this time of year. He likes to come to the boil, sort of March, April time, and he's looking pretty dynamic, pretty on it. You could say the same for Kelly Namai, who had another good game for Salford. They're in the driving seat. Chesterfield won against Morecambe by the same scoreline, 4-1. No real surprise here that they got ahead. The major surprise was that Morecambe equalised, but normal service was resumed. 3 more goals to Chesterfield as they pulled away. They've got Aki away, and because of their momentum, if you like, their form, because of the quality that they have and their motivation, I feel like it's sure that Chesterfield will win. But then Aki are really enjoying party pooping at the moment, right? They did it at Walsall. They did it against Carlisle. They did it against Tranmere as well. They beat Salford away from home, Aki, so they're actually finishing kind of strong as well. MK Dons drew 0-0 with Grimsby. So the full playoff picture heading into final day is let's go from the bottom up. Colchester are 2 points off it in 10th on 66, then Chesterfield on 67, then Grimsby on 68 with Salford, who are 7th, but Grimsby's goal difference is -5 and Salford's is +10. Then it's Wimbledon on 70, so they could still be chased down by Salford, Grimsby and Chesterfield and drop out. Notts County could secure automatic promotion. They have secured their playoff spot already. Do you have any hot takes on how some of the major fixtures will go? I'm talking about that Grimsby-Wimbledon game. Bradford have got a game at home to Fleetwood. Do you think they're bulletproof at home and should win and secure promotion?
I think Dons will get something at Grimsby. I'm not entirely sure how well Town are playing right now, having gone through a really good patch earlier on. I think Salford looked to me like they're playing well enough also to get something. So my hunch would be that 6th and 7th will go to those two, with Chesterfield probably winning their game and maybe still coming up short. But yeah, it feels like Salford almost had their kind of first playoff game on Saturday against Colchester, because that was a game where the winner was going to go into the playoff places and the loser was going to have their season ended. And they came through that test in flying colours. And it wouldn't surprise me if that's a sign that they are in a pretty good spot at this crux point.
Yeah, really, really exciting final day. We're going to be together for it. We're going to try and get a reaction pod out by Saturday night or Sunday morning. Not or Sunday morning. Not going to put them out twice. So yeah, stay tuned for that. And then a playoff preview as well early next week too. Cheltenham 3, Carlisle 2 means that Carlisle's relegation was secured, confirmed, I should say. Secured makes it sound like a positive thing. Double relegation, as it is, dropping from League One straight out of the Football League. And there's lots of things that you can look at over the last couple of years. Were they too loyal to Paul Simpson? It is a discussion that's been had. I now think that just can't be the main thing that you look at. If there was a mistake to go into this season with Simpson in charge, whether they held on to him for too long, I think that's dwarfed by the decision that they made following that, the way that they compounded that mistake, if it was. You look at the Mike Williamson era now, George, and we kind of mapped it out. I wrote about it when things didn't start well, about why particularly the circumstances of this appointment, rather than the appointment itself, rather than the man that they hired, the circumstances looked horrendous. And that was a complete change of playing style and approach with no transfer window and ages until the next one. There was 15, 16 games between Williamson coming in and the start of the January transfer window. They lost loads of those games and it all looked a complete mess. People lost confidence already in the project and in the playing style before they even got to January. They stuck with him through January, made loads and loads and loads and loads of signings, and then sacked him on deadline day, and then hired a manager who was going to play a different way. That decision, or that sequence of decisions and the timing of it alone, is worthy of relegation, I'm afraid, and it's why they've been relegated. Mark Hughes came in, and I've kind of admired his approach. I think he's done well. It's a pretty random group of players. He's got about 35 pros kicking around. It's a club that's been losing for 18 months, and he did manage to turn that around and win some football matches and build a coherent football team, but not enough games, not enough time. I assume they'll be able to splash some mega cash in the National League, so in that sense there's some positivity there. But as we know, it's difficult to bounce straight back.
It really is, yeah. And you have to think the ownership group probably wonder what they've got themselves in for. It would have seemed impossible that they would be owning a non-league club 18 months after they buy a League One one. It'd be interesting to see where they go next. It kind of feels like the National League is maybe an easier league to get out of now than it was a few seasons ago, where we had quite a lot of teams who looked like they were League Two ready, who were kind of fighting it out to try and get that one automatic spot. And then there was the year where Grimsby obviously got through the playoffs ahead of Wrexham, which when the Wrexham stayed down there, now it feels like it's maybe more conducive to bouncing back. And given the level of investment in Carlisle, I'd be surprised if they weren't back relatively soon. But even so, it's been a hellish couple of seasons for them. And they made a decent fist of it later on under Mark Hughes, but realistically it was too little too late. And with the squad of players at their disposal, there's no way it should have got as bad as it did.
Other results: Tranmere 2, Crewe 0, 3 red cards in this one. Always good fun towards the end of the season, just a bit of scrapping. Not much is fun for Crewe at the moment, I think it's fair to say. Finishing this season can't come quickly enough. You could say the opposite for Tranmere fans, who are very much enjoying how the team are playing under Andy Crosby, and understandably so. Fleetwood beat Newport 2-0. Lovely free kick from Phoenix Patterson here. Newport without Nelson Jardim, who left the club in midweek. Not a huge surprise. It was framed as very mutual. He'd like to move back to Portugal, where I believe he's got family, and it's been challenging for him on that front. I think it's one of those quite kind of perfect scenarios where I believe that on a results level, a league position level, and when you consider the squad at his disposal and the way it's been put together and the amount of turnaround, the amount of inexperienced players, I think Jardim can leave Newport with his head held high, knowing that he succeeded in his objective here. On a performance data level, an underlying numbers level, best to forget it and try not to talk about it too much. What is sure is that Newport need the next manager to do better on that front. Otherwise, they really will be scrapping for relegation next season. Gills 1, Swindon 1. Nice goal from Joseph Baudet, who then got himself sent off stupidly. Really nice free kick from Will Wright against his old club. We've seen that before. And Barrow 3, Bromley 3 was a bit of fun in the sun, or play in the grey, as you said on the betting show, because the weather wasn't actually that nice. Barrow went ahead 3 times here, and Bromley
lovely weekend this weekend though, so that's exciting.
Yes, sir. Finally, welcome to Barnet. Welcome back to Barnet. They were in the FL when we first started this pod. I remember going to interview their joint managers, Rossi Eames and Henry Newman, at the time. They've been in the non-league ever since, but they're back. And they look like a hell of a team. We are not National League experts, but they've only lost 1 of their last 30 league games. It's unbelievable. And we've got a thriving non-league channel in the NTT20 squad forum. And I asked the non-league channel, what makes them so good? And Ryan Deeney didn't disappoint. Barnet play 3-4-3. Absolute pests off the ball, smooth in how they move it. Wing backs high and wide at all times. Nice balance in terms of lefties and righties in build-up. Recycle the ball well. But also, this is 4 years in the making, says Ryan. Dean Brennan took over as director of football at Barnet after a strange no-relegation COVID season where they otherwise would have been relegated. Harry Kewell was manager, sacked after 7 games following awful mixed recruitment. Brennan took the job on, was brutal in his assessments, and has done a lot of work getting the bad players out and finding players that can meet his very high demands. He's ruthless, he's brutal, but he also knows when to strike and say the right things. Keeps his best players on their toes and has found a group capable of taking all that on the chin, not hiding, but stepping up. Best team in the league all season, deservedly going up. This is pretty exciting. I don't know much about Dean Brennan. He sounds like a pretty spicy character. I'm excited to add him to this division. And I think we know that good teams coming up from the National League generally finish at least in the top half, quite often top 7 as well. That's the end of the League 2 segment and today's Monday pod. Hope you've enjoyed it. Bumper episode as we get so excited at this stage of the season. Only 1 week to go in the regular season. The schedule will look as follows. A Dear Ali and George on Friday morning for NTT20.com's paid subscribers. It's a bonus podcast in which George and I will predict the score and result of every game across the EFL on final day and what it would mean for the league table. We will have a reaction pod on the main pod feed on Saturday night or Sunday morning, reacting to whatever happens on Saturday, final day across the 3 leagues. A playoff preview episode early next week, deep dive into the matchups in the semi-finals, some betting show picks as well. We're also excited this year to be doing an episode about fantasy EFL playoffs next week too. Been enjoying the EFL fantasy game, and we'll be putting together some teams ahead of the playoffs game in the next couple of weeks. And then we'll come up for air and we'll get excited for the playoffs, which are, of course, the greatest thing in all of sport. Thanks very much for listening and go well.